Good morning. Can y'all tell my voice is better? It's not 100%, but it's not 30% anymore, 20% anymore. I'm at least 90%, I think. All right. So I've been studying a couple of different things, but one thing I've been reading about was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then that Cynthia McCoy, all the way in the blessed city of Grays Creek, North Carolina, sent me something today. And, excuse me, she sent me something today, and it was this girl summarizing something about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the thing that she emphasized was the very thing that stood out to me. So I want to share it really quickly. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were punished by being thrown into the fiery furnace, right? So we know the story. They refused to bow down to an idol. And the king said to them, all right, so they told me that y'all wouldn't bow down. And I want you to reconsider it because y'all all right with me, right? And the king really didn't want to throw them in. And Pastor Cook used to say Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro. That's what he called them. And today I understand why he said that. Check it. So, they said to the king, "O king, we were not confused. We know what the decree was. And we're not careful." We're not careful to bow down. Like, we're not going to bow down. Like, we're not going to take thought. We're not going to give it thought. That's what we're not going to do. We're not careful in even responding to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever been in a situation when you knew you needed representation and you were careful to respond because you knew you needed representation? I'm kind of in a situation like that. Like, I'm being summoned to a meeting, and because things in the past have been twisted and I know this person is gunning for me, I had to go get representation. So I'm still going to speak. But if I'm not sure about what I'm going to speak, I can always look over at my representation and they will say, go ahead. Because we've already gone over what the questions are going to be and how I am to respond. But if they try to throw in a whammy, I can look at my representation and say, like, what am I supposed to do? Now, compared to what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was going through, bruh, what I'm dealing with is nothing. Like, they were being thrown into a fiery furnace, right? And the heat was turned up 7 times on them. Okay, get this. All right, this is the good part right here. You know, if you know anything about me growing up, you know I attended First Pentecostal Free Will Baptist Church located at 1123 Turnpike Road in the Yahweh blessed city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. If I make no mistake, the zip is 28305. It's either 28301 or 28305. Not really sure about that. But I grew up under the tutelage of the best pastor in the world, none other than Pastor R.J. Avery. The R.J. stood for R.J. All right. And he was married to the bomb first lady, like Mother Ellen Melvin Avery. Okay. And I think they were from Cedar Creek. I can't recall right now, but let me tell you about them. It was either Mother Avery or Miss Rebecca Jones, Pastor Rebecca Jones. I can't remember. But Mother Avery used to talk about how people would dig ditches for you. And she said, don't worry about it, because when they dig ditches for you, they'll end up falling in the ditch themselves. So this song went like, and she would talk about that often. And it's amazing how I heard those things as a child, but now they're ringing forth in my life. And that's why the Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart. The song says, you dig one ditch, you better dig two, because the ditch you dig, it's going to be for you. How about that? So don't worry when people are setting up plots. Don't worry when people are setting up traps for you, especially when your hands are clean and your heart is pure. Because the ditch they dig, the plot they plan, the trap they set, not it might, but it's going to be for them. The 3 Hebrew boys, y'all know Hebrew people were brown, right? Period I, period. That's my school life, y'all. Forgive me. Y'all know they were brown, right? So the 3 Hebrew boys said, "O king, we hear you. But to be sure, one thing for sure and 2 things for certain." Y'all, these streets is ratchet, so forgive me. He said, one thing for sure and 2 things for certain. I don't even have to be careful when I am responding to you. Let me tell you why. Because the one that we serve, not only is he always with us, but he is able to deliver us from anything that the enemy will present us with. And if he does not prevent us from going through, we'll die knowing that he was able to do that. In some way, he'll still get the glory. That little song says, he'll always get the glory. He will always get the glory. They went to throw the Hebrew boys in. And the king said, so y'all were throwing in 3, right? And his little servants, little people who bowed down to him and honored him and respected him more than they respected Yahweh. They said, yeah. It was 3. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay. The king said, but wait. When I looked in, I saw 4 people. And what's confusing is one of the 4 looked like the son of Yahweh. How did he know? How did he know? All right, check this out. Not only was Yahshua there with them, but he's also with us. The Bible declares that he will never leave us, nor will he ever forsake us. The Bible declares that whatever we commit to his hands, even if it is our life, that no person, no place, no thing is able to remove what he has in his hand. The song says he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, you enemy, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Sometimes we forget that Yahweh promised never to leave us nor forsake us. When we are in our fiery furnaces, when we are in our trials, when we are in tribulation, when we are in struggles, when it seems like the wind is so fierce that it's tossing us to and fro, so much so that we can't even catch our breath. Because it's one thing, and before we get over that one thing, here comes something else. And before we get over that thing, here comes something else. I've also been reading about Job. And see, the thing about Job is, not only was he going through, but Job had these ignorant people around him telling him why he was going through. They were saying, and I read it, and not only, they didn't say, oh, you did this or you did that, because they didn't have proof of why Job was going through. So they said, oh, you must have cursed Yahweh. Oh, you must have allowed someone to borrow something and then overcharged it. Oh, you must have. So you got the speculators and you got the naysayers and you got the spectators on the outside looking on your life. They're looking, trying to figure out exactly what it is that has caused you to be presented with diverse temptations and with struggles, and why you don't have any money and you're working every day and they have more money than they can spend, and they're living life that's just raggedy. And here you are calling on the name of Yahweh, and you gotta borrow from them. Wondering why your children are doing everything except for what you raised them to do, and their children are going to college, working, making these 6 figures, and wondering why your marriage pure fell apart, and you calling on the name of Yahweh, and they pray occasionally, and their marriage is still together. Wondering why things did not line up for you to go to school, but they have 2 and 3 degrees, but you calling on the name of Yahweh and they're not. Wondering why your job is just perfect or their job is perfect and yours is perfectly falling apart seemingly. They wonder why, how. I don't even pray like they pray. I don't even go to church like they go to church. They be around here fasting and praying and doing all that, and because that's your fiery furnace. And everything I mentioned, I don't mean it's happening sporadically. I'm talking about it's all happening at one time. Job, he would offer a response occasionally, and he was getting frustrated. Can't you see? Can't you understand? Can't you imagine his frustration? He was frustrated. But he did not curse Yahweh. He did not blame him. He was not reckless with his mouth when it came to saying, Yahweh, you did this and I don't deserve this. Because in his heart, he knew that he was right and that Yahweh would never leave nor forsake him. He knew that, right? So everything that Job went through, Yahweh was there with him. And it was just trials. It was just tribulations. And it all came so that Yahweh would get the glory. So Job ended up getting double for everything he lost. I'm talking about, you lose one car and he got at minimum double. At minimum, he received double. What am I saying? Bottom line it for me, Angie. Bottom line is this. When you are in the middle of your struggles, your trials, tribulations, the fights, the people plotting on you, when you know you haven't done anything wrong, you can be just like the 3 Hebrew boys. They said, I'm not careful in answering you, O king, because what we're not going to do is bow down to you. What she not going to do is bow down to you. They didn't have physical representation. They didn't have visible physical representation when they responded to the king. But when it was time for them to be cast into the fire, Yahshua showed up. He promised never to leave them nor forsake them. See, the king said, throw him in. Oh my. And so check this out, and I'm going to be done. People will put you up to doing their dirt, right? The king didn't throw him in. He told his little flunkies to throw him in. Well, guess what happened to the flunkies? The fire that they turned up 7 times hotter, that same fire consumed them. You dig one ditch, you better dig 2. Because the ditch you dig, it's going to be for you. How about that? Turn that good old fire up 7 times. 7 is the number of completion. And they were completely consumed. But them 3 Hebrew boys and that 4th person that the king saw made it out all right. Do you understand? All we have to do is stand and see the salvation of Almighty Yahweh. He is not going to forsake us. He is not going to leave us. He is not going to allow us to go through anything by ourselves. He is not only going to be there with us, but we have to be confident, just like the 3 Hebrew boys, and we have to be sure that we are sure that we are sure that we are sure of what we are sure of. And we have to say, you know what? I'm not bowing down. I'm not taken down from what I know is right. You won't see. Let me tell you something. I saw one of the accusations against me, and one of the accusations said that I told a blatant lie. I said that I was somebody that I'm not. Listen. I'm not careful in responding to that. My kids at school know I have 3 non-negotiables. I don't do thieves. I don't do disrespect. And I don't do lies. So why am I going to lie? See, I'm not careful in how I respond to that. But I had to keep my mouth closed in this instance, because there are battles that we just have to show up to and watch them play out. You feel me? So you have to stay connected to Yahweh, because sometimes he'll tell you, respond. Other times he'll tell you, be quiet. No matter what he tells you to do, the truth of the matter is he'll never leave you to go through anything that you're going through because you're representing him. He'll never allow you to go through that thing alone. People keep saying, why is the big dog coming after you? Y'all remember that big dog from my dream? Why? Like, this stuff does not make any sense. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being thrown into the fiery furnace makes no sense. But when it's all over, said and done, one thing for sure, two things for certain. Yah will get the glory. He's going to get the glory out of this. And another thing for sure, and another thing for certain, that every ditch that has been dug for me will be occupied by the ditch digger. Another thing for sure, another thing for certain, I will not go through this the wrong way. I have gone through this same situation at least 3 different times. Guess what? This time when it came, I was like, it's just a test. Because evidently, the last time I went through it, I didn't get out of it what I was supposed to get out of it. Oh, this giant. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Huh? What? No, I don't have to have AR-15. I don't even have to use my mouth. Guess why? Because this battle is not mine, but it belongs to Almighty Yahweh. It is well with my soul. Be encouraged, because Yahweh will never leave you, nor will he forsake you. Just look around. He's right there in that fire with you. And the ones who cause the fire to burn will be the ones who are consumed. Peace.